So there is a bit of a delay, so hopefully this is going through. And
That's
I'm just waiting for it on my screen. And once I see that, so there we go. I can turn that off before I start talking again. So, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Comics Are Rad. This is a podcast thingy where we talk about comics, why we love them, why they're so rad, um, just and every aspect of reading, collecting, looking at the cool pictures. And again, I'm joined by Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
howdy. How is everyone doing tonight? Hopefully good.
Everyone get in the chat. Hey, I got your rad from Comics Eternal. No, your rad Comics Eternal. So, what we generally do is talk about comics that we've recently got, what we've recently read, or if we haven't done any of that stuff, what we just is comics in general, TV shows, whatever. I did get some comic books this week, which I'm going to
That's a
show
that's a
off
that's a
now.
s- that's a subtle way of calling me out for not reading new things and spending an hour talking about Star Wars last week.
No, it's not. But I want to show you these off. My friend came over on the weekend, my mate Gav, and he gave me some books, which are they were doubles in his collection. I can see on this screen. So we've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Street Fighter, and that's issue 2. And he also gave me issue 5, and I thought the cover looked cool, but I had a look into it, and I got about 2 pages in before I gave up on that one. It's not for me, which is it's bad because I don't like not liking stuff, but it's also good because I was gonna go get the trade of that, but I don't have to now because I don't like it. So, but this one, it's IDW 25 years, and it's like it says title catalog. So I haven't looked at that, but that might be just a IDW catalog. Might be fun to look at the stuff they put out over the past 25 years. Got a cool Future Quest Space Ghost comic, which I haven't had a look at yet. But nice painting on the cover.
Hmm.
And then the best one is the old Takuma comics, Street Fighter 2 comics from back in the day. These from 94, I think. And this is issue 1. And the guy who gave me this one gave me this one, but he bought this off the newsstands in 1994. And I scabbed it off him at some point in the 90s because we've known each other for way too long. And we got Nick May in the chat saying good evening. Good evening, Nick May. So that's my pickup, so short and sweet. I haven't read any of those yet, but I'm gonna read the Street Fighter 2 one because they're really cool, those comics.
So, what was it about Ninja Turtle Street Fighter that didn't gel with you? Was it like the internal art style? Was it the way they were telling the story? Like, what sort of made you think, I'm going to put this down?
It was both of those.
Yeah,
They're
just didn't tick the boxes for you.
it was mainly the dialogue. Just it felt so amateur, and some of the art style was really bad too. Well, not bad, but just I just didn't like it. But a Street Fighter thing that I do like is this one. This is from '94, and it's got the really cool coloring. And because the
Hmm.
pages were Maybe it's for the manga was a different size. They added these little stats things in the bottom, like a GI Joe character card sort of thing. And it's got one for everyone, and the artwork's really great. And I think it's only 8 issues, and it's by Masami Kenzaki. So it's maybe a like a one shot in Japan. And when they brought it over to America, they colored it and um, split it up into 8 issues. But if you can see the gradient on like that sound effect,
That is really cool.
yeah, it's it's some expensive um coloring stuff they were doing for 94. It's probably digitally color separated, which is cool. It looks good. But yeah, I love that series, and I've got just one more issue. I can't remember what issue it is, but yeah, one day I will get all of them, and that'll be good fun. So, Ryan, what have you got to show? If you got anything new or a book you want to talk about?
So nothing super new, but some stuff that I was sort of revisiting and keen to sort of have a bit of a chat about because I've been sort of, I don't know, falling into nostalgia a bit lately. Um, I talked about Star Wars last week. I think I also went on a bit of a John Byrne rant for a moment as well. Um, so sort of got me back to thinking about X-Men and the X-Men titles that I really started gravitating towards when I very first sort of got exposed to comics when I was a lot younger. Um, so sort of took me back to that time at like that 1990s revamp of Marvel. You know, books were doing crazy figures. Um, Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man #1 sells like 2.5 million copies. Rob Liefeld's X-Force #1 sells like 4 million copies. And then we get to sort of the big kahuna of that era and maybe of comics of all time. X-Men #1 selling, 7, 8 million copies,
Mm.
which is still completely, um, unbeaten and probably never will be beaten. Um, Especially when sometimes a really popular book nowadays struggles to sell like 200,000 units worldwide. Granted, let's be fair. Like between the 4 separate gatefold connecting covers for X Men #1, and then the cover E, which had the cover A, but then it had the gatefold that folded all the way out to let you see the whole cover, sort of like poster style. Um, I mean, even so, I guess that's over 1 million copies per cover that they were able to move during that time, um, which is beyond impressive. And it's always been probably my favorite book, um, is X Men #1, and I've got multiple copies of it in different formats. I've got graphic novels, I've got collected editions, I've got reader copies that I've had for a long time, and then some, extras I've picked up here and there. But I also have my jewel in my collection copy, which is my CGC 9.8 copy of X Men #1 Magneto cover. For all the people who know that I'm a huge Magneto fan,
Mm.
but this one's been signed by Jim Lee and Chris Claremont.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's the favorite book that I have in my collection. Um, Very hard to beat. Um, you know, having your favorite character on an iconic cover by your
Mm.
favorite artist, that came to you in like such an influential time in your life is always going to be something which is going to be hard. to top. Um, and
That's a
then it
slog to read
piggybacked.
that one too. If you like the like Claremont and Lee were like fighting for page space. So Claremont's like, well, I'm gonna put as many word balloons in as I can.
Yeah, it is
It's dense.
it's not quite Frank Miller putting essays in speech bubbles, but it's getting up there at times. Um, but and I guess that's again one of the sad stories is the way that Chris Claremont's time on the X Men title sort of came to an end
Mm.
after only 3 issues of that collaboration with Jim Lee, um, which is a whole nother rant story for another time. Um, but from there, my X Men love just sort of continued out through the rest of my life. Um, the X Men animated series came soon after,
Mm.
which utilized the same character designs that Jim Lee did for X Men #1. Um, and then was really my first exposure to so many of the classic storylines that took place over the past, at that time, 30 years of X-Men, from their first tangle with Magneto to their Tales in the Savage Land to the Dark Phoenix saga, Phalanx Covenant, um, all these uh, iconic stories that sort of took place, um, Hellfire Club, all that. Um, and then it made it so much more connecting to me to then go back later on and read those original stories from the sort of Claremont Byrne iconic 16-year run on. Well, Byrne wasn't there for 16 years, but Claremont was. Bulk of it was John Byrne as well. Dave Cockrum, Paul Smith, John Romita Jr. A lot of the most iconic artists of all time sort of worked on the X Men at that period. But my favorite has always been Jim Lee. I think because I was always like a video gamer and stuff as well. So it's funny talking about Street Fighter, talking about like manga influences and things like that. I think that fueled subconsciously my love of what Jim Lee was doing on that book, as being an artist who was so heavily influenced by manga during his formative years. Um, so I went about getting hold of this.
Oh, I want that. That's awesome.
It's the only artist edition that I have at the moment, because they are so unwieldy. They're heavy, they're difficult to store, and they're expensive. But this was a treat to myself. I think I got this. Well, I got this for myself for my birthday one year. Um, but it takes a lot of iconic Jim Lee page sequences from his early years on Uncanny X-Men through to the relaunch and a little bit beyond through to X-Men #10, which was his last issue of the X-Men, from that 1990s run. But it does contain X-Men #1 in its entirety, in its full-sized original art. So I might not get exactly to that page because I don't know. Hang on.
See if I can put you full screen. There you go.
See if I can hold this up.
Wow, that's crazy.
So full pencil and ink, full size scans
Jeez.
of the original art, as it was handed in to the publisher to have the book printed back in the 90s. Um, and so it's sort of that new appreciation of like, getting into comics, having it become like a long term influence on other art that I've consumed, getting to that point where I became a collector of art as well. Um, this sort of goes that bridge between like being an original art guy and being a comics reader, where you get to appreciate a story that you already know that you love, but you get to sort of peek behind the curtain a little bit. You know, you can see where artists and writers have made notes in the margin that didn't make it into print. You can see where there's been patch overs done, you know, because you're seeing the original art pages scanned, discoloration, alteration, all that sort of stuff. No edits, all done as it was on the page, without having to spend, you know, your life savings to accumulate some of this art originally. So it's something. This is something that I revisit as well. Like it's a great read, but it's also just a great, almost like coffee table book where
Mm.
you can sit down and just open it up to a page and just have a bit of a look at it, like have a bit of a study of like what's actually going on, like soak in the different textures and all that sort of stuff. Um, and it's sort of just it's solidified that story for me. Like, I mean, Perfect World for me, it would have been the first three issues would be collected in this format. Um, they're three issues that feature the triumph and then the downfall of Magneto. So after Magneto's defeated in X-Men number 3, you know, we don't see him for quite a while. So um, legend goes that Chris Claremont intended that to be the death of Magneto as a character. Like he had no intention of bringing him back, which is explored a little bit in the Claremont series, X-Men Forever, which he sort of did as a follow-on for like, what if he'd stayed on X-Men? What would he have done? He did get that chance to sort of have a go at telling that story. I think in the early 2000s. Don't quite remember when it was published. Um, but yeah, that's been the main thing that I've sort of been digging into at the moment. So not so much new reading, but nostalgia reading. I've also got, I mean, I've got this story in, you know, Epic Collection, trade paperback, hardcover graphic novel, um, you know, almost every format that you can think of. Um, and it's kind of nice to be able to pick out whichever one I like at the time, whether I want it to be, you know, the reprinted graphic novel, the hardcover, sort of has a bit of a, you know, it's on different paper than original, so it's got a bit of a remastered sort of feel to it. Like the colors are a bit different, the paper's different. Some of the colors being touched up, like you can definitely tell compared to how it was originally done. Um, or you can pick out like the Epic Collection, which is a little bit more closer to the original uh, printing. And then I've got, you know, a sizable chunk of this run of the X Men in original copies, still like single issues. So whenever I feel uh, truly nostalgic and want to dig into the real thing, um, I can break out my reader copies that I've got, which, you know, they have that, you know, they well and truly have that old comic smell
Mm.
about them now. Like, you know, they're some of my comics I'm a bit more careful about. You know, like I do tend to change their bags and boards every couple of years to make sure that they stay in nice shape, that they don't get any staining and all that sort of stuff. And then I have my reader copies where the whole point is that I want them to get old and I want them to get a bit beaten up. Um, so I like cracking those ones out sometimes because it's sort of, you know, it's nice to have your copy of something. You know, you can collect a million copies of the same book, but there'll always be that one particular copy that's like your copy. And I don't necessarily have a lot of books in my collection, which I have that attachment to. Um, Even though I'm not really a DC guy, I one of the other comic books I started reading around the same time was the Death and Return of Superman sort of issues. I mean, that was a fraction later. I can't remember the dates exactly. Um, but I had Adventures of Superman 504, which has a black suit Superman fighting robots in Robot City cover, um, internal art by Tom Grummett. And that book gives me the same feels, like it's my copy. I've had it since I was like a small child. It's still in my collection. It's beat to hell, but I wouldn't really. I'd probably get like a collectible cover for it for nostalgia purposes, like get a graded version. But I still like to read my copy.
Oh, cool. One thing that I found with the artist editions and seeing the original art is how much corrections they do, like how much whiteout they use. Like um these artists that you held up in your mind is like they're so perfect. Like every line's just perfectly placed, and they're masters. And then you see it, how big they drew it, and how many times they've had to redraw stuff, and how much there when it's shrunk to comic book size page, you see like a lot of the featherings, like it looks at like how you do it. It's not perfect, but when it's reduced, it all looks so like pristine and beautiful. But there's a lot of stuff going on that you would never see unless you can actually see the original art, which is hard because it's expensive and in America. And I found that really illuminating. Like I've got the Walt Simonson Thor one, and it's like I love Walt Simonson's artwork, and just seeing how much he uses the whiteout, and how much he was used the whiteout to draw, like effects and stuff. So he draw a black part or draw the lines and then go through them with the whiteout to make the effects go through the lines. Which, like I always said, they just drew it up to that bit and then colored it in and then left a space, and you know like they inked around the effects and stuff, but they draw through it with the like it's a reductive process where they're taking away the ink from the picture, and it's just seeing the process of how they make these things is really cool.
I think it was like the first time I saw an artist do that, like in front of me, working on like a commission and like a convention or something like that. It like blew my mind what they were doing. Like cracked out like just a chunky, like shakeable, whiteout pen marker, and then started like going to town, and just showed you like how much experimentation into the tools that you use to get certain effects and all that sort of stuff goes into the medium of comics.
Mm,
And it was super fascinating.
yeah, it's good stuff. We've got a comics channel said so cool and love it, and I think that was about the X-Men #1.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Yeah, I love it too. Which is why I own far too many copies of the same book.
I've never managed to get a copy of that. I wasn't interested in it when it came out, and then like the prices skyrocketed, and then when they came back down, like I don't think I've ever seen it in a dollar bin or anything, which is crazy because of how many they sold, like how many the shops would have got lumped with when the bubble burst.
You do overpay for it for some reason. Like no one quite understands why, because like you said, there's 8
8
million
million.
copies of it out there, and there's probably there's probably not a whole lot more comic readers out there than that, nowadays. Um, but for some reason this book just on average it holds like 10 times its value. So a book that should be in every dollar bin in
Mm.
every comic book store, at least one of the covers, is routinely selling for like $10 to $20, like secondhand, depending on the condition of the book, and then even more graded and even more signed and graded. Like it's um, it's bizarre. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, especially like the not that I would, but the amount that I could sell that book for, even with how many signed copies are currently on the census at CGC, doesn't make any sense. Like it's one of the true X-Men #1 is one of the true anomalies of comic collecting.
Well, that explains why I don't have one. I've got I got plenty of X-Force #1s, and I've got I think a second printing of Spider-Man #1, but I never managed to get one of the X-Men's. And you don't see the other issues either, like the no adjective X-Men. They don't really come up in the dollar bins, which is where I do most of my comic shopping.
I feel like for the longest time, maybe 15 years ago, they were easy to get. They were everywhere. They were absolutely flooded. Um, and I was paying like $3, I think, an issue, sometimes less, for back issue copies from that run. And now, um, who knows? Who knows why? But it just seems like random copies from that run, but are selling for more and more, and so many of them are overvalued um, because of perceived importance with first appearances or some sort of milestone issue within that run. Um, like nothing special happens in that comic.
Mm,
I mean, X Men 4 uh, to collectors is more valuable because it's the first appearance of Omega Red,
mm,
um, which again shouldn't hold that much value. I mean, it's not like Omega Red has been an iconic, important, long standing, influential villain in the X-Men universe. So it is rather silly that that book is demanding sometimes between like $40 and $60 ungraded
wow.
um, in collector circles. Um, X-Men #10 sometimes sells for a decent price just because it's the last Jim Lee book of the run. And again, nothing necessarily interesting. Yeah, it has a cool cover. It has like an iconic sort of Wolverine cover, but nothing happens. Uh, so yeah, no, I'm totally on the same page with you. It doesn't make any sense. Um, but these books need to go back into the dollar bins because so many of them were sold. Stop trying to get like $10 an issue for them because it doesn't make any sense. It's not worth it. I mean, they're worth it because they're great stories, but they're not worth it in the sense of there's so many out there. Um, $2. Charge $2.
Well, speaking of comics that you can get in the $2 bins, these are two that I read this week. So this is it Arrakis or Arachnus? Arachnus. Yeah, from Mushroom Comics. And so as you can see, this is 90s as shit. And the, my history with this book is it's by the Ortiz brothers. And way back in the day, like it would have been in the very early 90s when I was getting the back issues of Hero Illustrated. I was getting them from Alternate Worlds when it was in Windsor, and they were because they were much cheaper than the current issues and the Wizards and stuff. And these guys had an ad in like just on a quarter page ad in one of the Hero Illustrated issues, and it was like a pencil drawing, or they yeah, I think it was pencils, and it was one of the first time I'd actually seen like a penciled artwork, especially in this like very 90s style. And it was a really cool drawing, and I cut the picture out and stuck it on the wall because you can see the like
Very cool.
it's highly inspired by the image guys, the extreme sort of the 90s aesthetic. And then when I went to the 1996 Comic Con thing, it was like the first one I ever went to. And these guys, well, not these guys, but there was a booth at the Comic Con in Melbourne, and there was people selling they're trying to sell these to the people. And when I went there, like the time that I was there was only about 4 people, as far as I can remember. Like it was empty. There was no punters, and these people were yelling and saying, "Hey, come and look at this!" And I was like, "Oh, did you draw that, or did you write it?" And they're like, "No, but come and look at it." And I was like, "No, I don't care if you didn't do it." Like they were just selling them. So it's weird that they had a presence in like at a Comic Con in Australia, and it's in '96, like right at the edge of the bubble. Like this is when Marvel nearly went bankrupt, and then by '97 the speculator bubble had completely burst. And I think if these guys had been able to get on it and get this book out early, like maybe 2-3 years earlier, it could have been a big hit because it's on par with a lot of stuff that was coming out at the time. Like the actual stories, it's a decent like kind of bog standard superhero story with all the excesses of the 90s stuff. That there's no swearing, but there's fairly violent and gruesome. There's like a guy getting eaten by spiders. So there's cool stuff like that. And the artwork's really cool. And I don't know what happened. So it seems like this was a 4 issue miniseries, and then there was a 0 issue advertised. And then I think at the end of this one, they say they're going to be doing a regular series, maybe. Yeah, because they're advertising issue 1. I don't know if that's for back issues, April. I don't know. Also, this one feels like a bit thin, and it kind of, I think there's some pages missing because it kind of starts in the middle, and then it ends weird. Like it ends abruptly, and the looks like someone's been playing with the staples in the middle. So I think there might be some pages missing from this issue. But yeah, it's cool. And I recently saw on Facebook that these guys, the Ortiz brothers, might be trying to get this going again, get a bit of 90s nostalgia. It's one of those things that I always find interesting with like time and place stuff. Like if the Ninja Turtles had come out 4 years earlier, would it have gone crazy? If it had come out 4 years later, would it have gone crazy? If these guys had got this book out 4 years earlier, like '92, would it be a big underground like success? Would the like Image have got them to like put it under the Image banner? It's yeah, that kind of stuff just really fascinates me. Like the what if of like why isn't this as big a success as any of the other stuff that was out at the time? And there's another thing that I wanted to show you guys. Yeah, there's this really cool pinup in the back. Like really nice coloring, sick drawing. and then I realized it's the cover for Max #1.
True.
I should. Yeah, there's Max #1, and then there's this guy, and there's no after Keith at the bottom. It's just swiped it, but it's still a sick drawing, like that, the mecha stuff. And this is like digitally, got the digital color separations, and the color's really good. As a package, it's just as good as pretty much everything that was coming out of Image, like the extreme stuff. It's just as good as better as a lot of the things that um, like Liefeld was putting out at the time. It's just that they just hit at the wrong time. It'd be interesting to find out about these guys. Like how much did it cost to get a book like this professional looking, to get it printed and colored, and how long did it take them to draw with such detail? It's like really high detailed drawing. And yeah, it's just kind of just a back issue fodder now. So that's that one. And I've had this in my to read pile for years, a couple years now. And I read the first two, but never got around to reading the second two. But it's good to look at if you're into that kind of stuff. If you're into the 90s excess. We've got Nathan's in the comments saying the boys, let's go, and Tasty Scanner in the back. Got the A3 size scanner bit on it. I also
I
read.
think those books are great time capsules because those indies are always a product of the time, like probably more so than even the mainstream comics that were getting made at that time. Because usually, a lot of those indies, they're trying to imitate or they're trying to replicate a vibe or something that was going on in mainstream comics at that time, and very few of them ever really do it well. Like the thing, they can be admirable attempts, admirable attempts, but nothing that like really stays with you or is that memorable. So it's kind of cool to see that you've got this attachment to, one of those books, like something that is probably, you know, otherwise one of those lost to history sort of projects.
And with that book especially, I don't think those guys were trend chasing. I think they really loved that shit. And like, yeah, this is our one. Everyone check it out because it's sick, and we love drawing all this crazy stuff. And I think they just missed the window of opportunity for it to really catch on. We've had a bit of Turtles talk in this episode, but this was another one that Gav brought around for me. This is an old Archie's Turtles Adventures, and it's nice, and it's like a snail's been eating it. It's falling apart, and we got an ad for Faceball in there, and I just watched a documentary about that Faceball. There's a guy stop skeletons from fighting on YouTube, and he did a documentary about trying to get the 16-player version of the Game Boy Faceball working, and it was a whole big ordeal. And yeah, that was cool. But this has a cool cover it's got Peter Layard's signature on it, but it's a nice cover. And then it's just a bog standard Archie Comics Turtles Adventure, but it's got all the Mutanimals in it. See those guys. But it was what was really interesting for this one was the difference in how professional a 90s kids comic is compared to the Street Fighter versus Turtles book, which is assumes aimed at a older audience, but this is like it's so much more solid, like in every aspect of the, like these guys were turning out monthly books, but it's it's a good read for if you're into the old Archie's, Eastman and Laird's Ninja Turtles. And back in the day when the Turtles came out on TV in I think it was like 1990, and it was just on TV one day. And then the newsagents started getting in these books. So for most kids my age, especially where I grew up, this was our first experience of Ninja Turtles in a comic book form, and it was based off the. It's based off the cartoon, so the the first issue is actually like a retelling of one of the episodes, because I've got that somewhere. There's also an ad for the Zen, the Intergalactic Ninja action figures, which look very cheap and nasty. As
I swear I had some of those. Seeing that image there.
I had the Game Boy game, which I don't know where I got it, but yeah. And you'd see,
Anyone
I'd say,
interesting doing the anyone interesting doing the art on that Turtles book? Like
uh,
the internals?
it wasn't someone that I noticed, recognize. It's Chris Allen and John D'Agostino on the inks, Chris Allen on the pencils.
Hmm.
But it's
I suppose
nice.
a lot of those books were like springboard books at that time. So like if you did it and you did it really well, like you might get picked up to do something else. So
Or it was
probably
old
explained why it was
pros
so good.
trying to still get work when they, like everything was getting extreme. But yeah, so that's another one. And do you have any more stuff, or have you?
I didn't bring anything with me. I only brought those two books. Um, what else have I been getting into? I mean, not a lot else at the moment. Like it's been a hectic time. Uh, and yeah, like I set aside these 2 days to try and really get into my to read pile, and I ended up uh, lying prone on the couch, hoping to die instead, uh, which I'm starting to feel better now. So the intention is to read more.
It messes with your concentration when you're not feeling good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially because I got my little reading area, so I got like it's all set up. Like I have my a comfortable chair in there. You know, I have everything sort of set up the way I like it. And then um, I couldn't sit there, couldn't do it. So it was kind of mocking me from across the room, seeing my all the books on the shelves, my chair, everything all set up, ready to go, and then me just dying on the couch.
Oh, it's good that you're all better. So I've got one more, and it's the albino grub. In the hive of the albino grub, the minty frisket. Doesn't say on the cover, but it says on the indicia. By the one and only Nick May. And it's a Dick Tracy homage. And if you've read any of Nick May's stuff, it's um it's on par with like the was it Roller Cop? Like it's just the way that Nick makes comics is uh weird. And so it's lots of non sequiturs. It's absurdist. It people just yelling stuff out for seemingly no reason, but he manages to bring it back and make it somehow kind of make sense. And it's oh, we've got Nick May saying, "I've read that, Ed. It's okay." And Pandemonium saying, "You know he's a twisted bastard." Is may or may not be true, but look how nice the black and white art is. Got
I
Sage.
think I don't know if this is the right terminology to use to refer to some of Nick's books, but like I always enjoy them immensely. And I think Nick and I have a similar sense of humor when it comes to comics and nonsense. And uh, maybe a good term for some of his work is dumb comics for smart people. Like
Mm,
some of the stuff that goes on in his books are very silly, and some of the jokes are very dumb. But there is another layer under it, like so that there's more to it than just the joke. Um, so like you sort of there's always a payoff. Like if you know the references, if you can sort of get with the vibe that he's putting down, um, there's always another layer to his stuff that's pretty fun. So I always look forward to it.
yeah, it's a good way to put it. Like their characters are usually like really dumb and doing dumb stuff, but it's really funny. And Nick May's blushing in the comments. But it's yeah, it's really absurdist, and it has a like a stream of consciousness. Like he's not like waiting long enough to get the idea out before he just puts it down and then moves on, but then can still tie it all back together. Oh, and like with the first page where Minty Frisket shoots a glass with the tequila worm in it because he hates worms, but then that becomes a major theme of the comic. Where there's like an old cartoon, the the bad guys burrowing into the bank vault, and there's worms everywhere. It's like worms. Why did it have to be worms? Which most people should get that reference. And it's cool. I like the way he uses the um the varying like grids. So he's using 9 panel grids, 12 panel grids, mostly nines and 12s, which is really fun. And it when you uh, Nick says there's no plotting at all, which I could see, and it moves too. Like it's snappy. Like it's so punchy. Like the way it goes from just bashes you in the face from joke to joke to joke. Like it's it's relentless. What was I saying? Oh yeah, with the way that he uses the grids to structure his pages puts a real rhythm to the book, and I think that helps. Instead of slowing it down, having the more panels, I think it actually ups the tempo and makes it just moves. It's really good. There's a great bit with the I don't know if it's a spoiler, but there's a chase that starts on foot, goes to roller skates, which is a theme that Nick likes. Then they're in the cars, and then they're just in ocean liners chasing each other. And then there's a cool reminds me of the Hellboy guy. His name I can't remember right now because I'm on camera. But yeah, if you want to get some of Nick May's books, go to Chernobyl on Instagram. Chernobyl. It's very good. And that was all
I
that I
read
read today. Oh, this
I,
week.
I read his book Pink Flamenco not long ago. Picked that one up, and
Do I have that? Yeah.
it's uh it's it's good. It's God, it's 80s action movie absurd, um, about an anthropomorphic flamingo man, uh, who who arrives in a small town and realizes there's trouble afoot, um, which is as amazing and ridiculous as it sounds.
Yeah, that's
I'm all about just fun comics, like
mm,
not every comic needs to be The Dark Knight Returns.
I think that's one of Nick's strength too is taking a trope and then just I don't know, not twisting it, but just like pushing it to like an absurd limit and then it and running with it. It's really good cartooning, and his drawing so cool too. One of my
Yes,
favorites.
even just some of the fan art that he's done, that you'll find on his Instagram, is very very cool. He's got a style all of his own. It's like you kind of imagine you're watching a cartoon. You look at his work, like
Mm.
it's very animated, even as a still image.
And Nick suggests that what he does with the troops is flogs them to death with his writing style. Uh, yeah, so that's all of my stuff for this week. Now that can go into the red pile. Um, so is there anything you're looking forward to that's coming out, or that you've got at the on hold at the comics shop?
Um, I mean, there's stuff I've had my eye on. Like I think I mentioned it a bit last week. Is the Speed Racer limited series, which is coming out in June, I believe. Um, Particularly keen on, um, Cheeks Galloway is doing, connecting covers for all 5 issues of the miniseries. So, like, his artwork is phenomenal. It's got real Saturday morning cartoon vibes. Like, it's kind of retro, perfect for, um, the type of book that Speed Racer is probably going to be. Um, and I'm kind of keen. I like the series, like in general. I've liked adaptations of it. I'm a big fan of the Wachowskis' uh, film of Speed Racer. I've read the Racer X graphic novels and things like that as well. Um, so I don't know. Fingers crossed, I guess, that it will be good. Um, we'll see. I'm probably I'll probably do what I always do, and I'll pick up all 5 issues, and I'll put them in my to read pile, and then I'll buy the graphic novel and I'll read that. But I haven't really been keeping up. I find it's harder and harder to find jump on points for, a lot of the big series nowadays. Like if I
Mm.
was going to start reading, X-Men again as a monthly, I probably wouldn't know where to start. I'd probably just wait until this era finishes and then just jump onto the next one because it seems like it's too hard. Like, um, most modern comic series seem like that now, unless it's, stuff that's artist specific, like they're letting such and such do a 6 issue run of whatever, like Jonathan Hickman and Greg Capullo have done with Wolverine um, series, where it's like was always going to be a limited series. That's less daunting because there's an end to it. Like it's a
Mm.
self-contained little story. Um, but it was kind of like when I didn't jump on the Hickman X-Men series from the start, like the Krakoa era, and then after 6 issues, it got to the point where it's like, well, I don't know what's going on, so I'm just not going to jump onto this for however many years it takes to go to completion. And then I just wasn't inspired by the creative teams that they put together for the From the Ashes relaunch. And I found that to be the case more often than not. So I've sort of sticking to limited series that I find from time to time, um, minor publisher stuff, independent graphic novels, independent books, books like Stellar Lands, which is phenomenal. Um, and I'll give a plug to Max Ferrata right now. Stellar Lands #3. You can go on Kickstarter and get notified for the pre-launch of that book right now. Um, yeah, and I guess the only series really that's on my main list is just because I can't really bear to let it go right now is the Mark Waid World's Finest Batman Superman title. Um, it's the only DC title that I've really collected since uh, I did the Snyder Capullo Batman run, and I did the John Romita Jr. All Star Batman. But and that was the only real DC stuff that I collected since the Green Lantern Rebirth stuff with Jeff Johns way back when. Um, and I'm mainly stuck on this one because it's disconnected from the main DC narrative. Like I don't have to read a million tie-ins. I don't have to read Supergirl, Superboy, and Wonder Woman, and Batman and Superman and Animal Man and like any other title that they decide they want to link together uh, to try and get more of my money. Um, yeah, I don't know. I wish I do more of that. I think I say that every week. I wish they do more of those sort of artist-inspired
Mm.
miniatures, which I guess they are. Like there's a few a year, and for the most part, they've all seemed to be pretty okay.
Yeah, I got the Silvestri Batman Joker thing that he did, which was pretty cool. And the Raphael Grandpa Batman. I don't know when issue 4 is coming out, but
It's like that his stuff is like his art style is so unique that it's kind of interesting just for a fresh take on it. It's kind of like why Trent Moore's stuff is so appealing. It's just because artistically it's so different. Same as Daniel Warren Johnson.
mm,
It's it's the character you know, but presented in a new way, which is what we had with the Sean Gordon Murphy White Knight sort of universe for a while before that sort of seemed to burn itself out. Did you read any of that? That Sean Gordon Murphy White Knight Batman
I've never heard of it.
stuff. So he sort of got his own little unofficial, then became official sort of imprint of Batman Black Label comics, sort of set in his own little self-contained universe. I think he did Batman, Harley Quinn, Joker, like different series that all sort of tied into each other, just with that unique. Um, I mean, the only really book of his that I had super gotten into was Tokyo Ghost. With that same sort of art style, like jagged, sort of angular, um, Jorge Zafino sort of inspired, uh, black and white heavy, uh, sketchy designs, which are kind of cool. At the time, it was kind of cool anyway.
Well, we might wrap it up there. We've run out of stuff to talk about for this week, but we'll be back next week. I got Nick saying Sean Gordon Murphy art is awesome. So there you go, everyone go check out Sean Gordon Murphy. My book, Final Dragon, is very close to be getting finished for the Final Dragon issue 1. So I'll have more updates on that. Probably next week. We got Sis saying awesome show. And speaking of Comics Eternal, me and Sis are working on a thing that we can I'll tell you more about as we get some more stuff done on it and it's closer to being shown to everyone. Nick May says good evening. Pandemonium, thanks for the chats. And thanks to all you guys for chatting. And I saw Nathan was in there before, and who else? That might be. But thanks to everyone who chatted. If you're watching this on the VOD and you got this far, leave a comment. Everyone click the like button and stuff. And subscribe if you're not. Have you got anything to plug?
I'm just going to plug my show again. So tickets are on sale for the play that I wrote with a friend of mine, Bawdy Tales and Critical Fails, a role play adventure, sold out run at the Moreton Bay Anywhere Festival. Going to be playing the Brisbane Festival from the 25th of July to the 2nd of August. Tickets are on sale now. It's a good night out. Grab your friends. You can score tickets at anywhere.is.
Awesome. I should be back on Sunday with the drawing stream. And we'll be back next week for more talk about why comics are so rad. And I think that'll do. So thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks, Ryan, for coming on the show, and we'll see you next week. Right, I'm gonna press the button end broadcast.